Star Wars The Clone Wars, Episode 15 of Season 1 is Trespass. An episode which takes place on a rather remote, unimportant moon in a system that has a lot of influence, I guess, within the Outer Rim. Since it does have a senator representing them in the Senate on Coruscant. Then again, just about everyone seems to have a senator in that body, because it's like a galactic ruling body for thousands of worlds. Albeit the Senate does appear to have its own standing army until the the Grand Army of the Republic bill is passed, which makes me wonder what was going on in the first movie of The Phantom Menace when they were trying to go to the Senate for help, when the Senate doesn't have an army that could fight back the droids that had taken over Naboo. But that's getting off track of this episode. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of headaches. I'm a bit out of it right now. Trespass is actually a pretty decent episode, in my opinion. Though, maybe it's just because I love some of the moments with the big speeches they have going on. Despite being over the top, they do have an air of being grandiose about them. Especially watching Chairman Cho basically declaring war on the Talls, all for the sake of a desolate moon. Not desolate, I'm sorry. A desolate planet that is basically just covered in ice, to the point that I'm not even sure how the Talls survive on it, much less their mounts. What exactly do they eat? What's with science fiction shows and putting races on planets where they probably wouldn't have been able to survive at all? I mean, the Talls are covered in fur, so they're obviously mammals, so they'd be warm-blooded, but being warm-blooded requires a lot of energy. And if you're living on a planet that's basically covered in ice, even at the most tropical zones, what exactly are they eating to survive? And where do they get all these bones and animal skins to build their huts from? The only other thing we see on this planet are their mounts. Do they just kill their mounts if they're not useful to them anymore and then turn them into huts? What else do they eat? I keep coming back to that, but it's an ice planet where the temperature seems to be it's constantly where it's always going to be below freezing. So what exactly grows up there? We don't see any trees. We don't see any moss or anything. It's just sheets upon sheets of ice. You can't tell me they're getting all their subsistence from the water, are they? Because it takes more than just because a human can survive longer on water without food than they can without water doesn't mean that they can survive purely on water, because water doesn't have all the nutrients you need to survive. I'm sorry. I'm getting caught up in some sort of scientific discussion in a series that should have been a fantasy adventure until they try giving a scientific explanation behind the Force. And quite frankly, it shouldn't have ever had one, because it just ruins the Force, in my opinion. It makes it all about biology rather than about spirituality. As for the speeches themselves, yeah, they're over the top, like I said, but I like them. As for the fighting between the Talls and the clone troopers, there's not much to talk about. And you got the Talls coming in charging on mounts, well, let's face it, they're very technologically behind. Then again, I'm still not sure how the Talls got to the planet, because they obviously didn't have hyperdrive technology, which makes you wonder how long they've been there and how they got there. Did they use a spaceship that couldn't travel faster than the speed of light? Where's that ship at? What, they take it apart? Did they crash land there with it? I guess I realized the episode's more about the speeches and about showing the problems of being arrogant about the superiority of your own species. But the question of how Talls got there is undeniable. How did they get to this ice-covered planet? And why did they decide to colonize on it? I guess they come from an icy planet, icy world themselves, but it just seems strange that they would settle on this planet. which is just a desolate wasteland. In fact, there doesn't appear to be anything useful about the planet at all, even though there's the moon that orbits it is also inhabited, and they've basically claimed it as a protectorate, I guess. Or maybe they live on a moon, a moon that's orbiting a planet that's nearby or something, because they're in like the same system or something. But I just don't understand why anyone would care about this ice ball if there's nothing valuable on it. They describe it as a desolate wasteland, so if it's such a wasteland, why spend troops and resources on it? I guess I shouldn't question the logic of it, but it just bugs me when you don't understand some of the basics going on here. I guess you can argue that having clone troopers there was more politics, and the droids could use it to build a forward base to attack. Sorry, I'm moving a bit off camera there, but the basic setup is all right to an extent, I guess, but some of the stuff is just so dependent on, well, such obvious BS that's hard to take seriously. Even if it's one of the better episodes of the first season, it doesn't feel like a very well thought out episode. It feels more like a poorly written fanfic in some regards, I guess. Simply because there's just no real reason why the Talls should be there. And there's no good reason why the people of Pandora should care about this moon. I'm sorry, planet. They come from a moon. Yet they're fighting over a planet that's just completely covered in ice. And they claim it to be a protectorate of theirs. But why protect a planet that has nothing on it? Seriously, someone explain that to me. If there's no strategic value to that moon, sorry, not moon, planet, and there's no real mineral resources or anything on it, then what's the point in bothering with it? But like I said, if you want to watch this episode, just watch the speeches. Otherwise, just ignore it, because it's just not that interesting. Outside of the initial mystery of who attacked the clone troopers base and the droid base that are on the planet. But we never really hear about any follow-up to putting more troopers there, more droids there in a forward base fashion, so I don't know what to think about the rest of the episode. At least logically speaking, because a lot of the stuff with the Talls doesn't make sense. Like I said, there's no real way they could have gotten there, at least in the way the episode talks about it. It seems to infer that they actually came from there, or originated from there, or somehow evolution allowed the same species to evolve twice on two different planets. Which is BS, because evolution doesn't work that way. The same thing probably wouldn't evolve twice, even on different planets. Because there's different selective pressures and different gene mutations would have happened. And I realize I'm stumbling, but like I said, I got a bit of a headache, and I'm tired. And I'm trying to just push my way through this video, and that's really all I have to say about it. It's got some decent speeches, but the action stuff just isn't particularly interesting in my opinion. Once you've got solved the mystery of who attacked the clone troopers and the droids, the rest of the episode is basically just watching the droids get their butts kicked by the Talls as they chase them around riding cat-like mounts, wielding spears. And don't even ask me where they got all the spears from, because quite frankly, there doesn't appear to be like any resources on the planet to make anything, much less spears.